The Buddha once said, "He who sits alone, lies down alone, walks alone, in diligent practice, and alone tames himself, should find delight in living in the forest." Living alone, being alone, can be scary for many people these days. Oftenly, our society portrays a successful life, a happier life, a good life, as a life where it is surrounded by people, surrounded by things. But there's a reason why almost all the spiritual practices, almost all the spiritual pathways praise and promote this living alone, life in the place of a solitude practice, a solitude life. And that is why almost all the religious leaders had to solitude themselves from these hassles and bustles of this society and go to these quiet places and find the liberation and find what they were looking for. Same went with the Supreme Buddha. Before he became the Buddha, he was a prince. He was living in a palace. He was indulging himself with this sensual pleasure. And then he understood, indulging in this sensual pleasure doesn't help me to find what I'm looking for. So what he did was he left the palace and he went from one forest to another, meditating, finding this peace, this ultimate peace, right? So living alone can be a blessing. It is a blessing when it is converted to a blessing, right? But living alone can be a curse as well for many people. That is why people most of the time they are scary. They're afraid of living alone, right? Most of the time people come to me and say, I'm lonely. I'm living alone. I'm living by myself, but I feel so much lonely, so much negative thoughts coming into my mind. What should I do? That is what happens when you turn this loneliness into a curse. Trust me, it all depends on how you think and how you use this time. I will tell you a story. Prince Siddhartha, the Buddha, left the palace and he went to a forest. Although he went to a forest, there were 5 monks who was waiting for him to come to the forest. There were 5 monks who were helping Prince Siddhartha, the Buddha, with the meditation before his awakening. And then these 5 monks had this idea that only way to find the liberation is by giving this tortures and doing these hard meditations and harsh meditations and extreme meditations. So we call it Atta Kilamatthana Yoga, which we can translate into English as self-mortification, right? Now, Prince Siddhartha left one extreme when he left the palace. That extreme is, the Buddha described this as the extreme of sensual pleasures, indulging in the sensual pleasures. That was one extreme. And then Prince Siddhartha came to the other extreme where he practiced this self-mortification, giving these extreme and harsh meditations to the body. And then those 5 monks, they believed that this is the only way for the liberation. So Prince Siddhartha was practicing these meditations for 6 years. And finally he understood this extreme, being in this extreme, doesn't help me either. So then he found the middle path, the middle way. And that is to live a spiritual life by balancing his material and spiritual life both, right? And that is why after that decision, he decided to take some food to his body. After a long time he had taken some food to his body, he grabbed his alms bowl and went on begging alms and find some food and had it. Now all those 5 monks had a lot of expectations on Prince Siddhartha. And then they saw this incident. And then they became disappointed. They said, "Oh, what a disappointment. We believed him. We had a lot of expectations on him. But look what now happened. He's taking food. Maybe soon he will go back to his palace and he will live a normal life again. So the best decision is to take is to leave him. So what happened? All these 5 monks left Prince Siddhartha. And after this alms round, he came back to the forest, and he saw everyone had left. No one was there. Prince Siddhartha was alone. Then he found this perfect environment, perfect place to be focused more into himself. That was because he was all alone. Right? He got the opportunity to be by himself, right? Focus more into himself. And one day, he sat under the Bodhi tree and he became awakened. He became enlightened, right? So this solitude, when it is turned to, when it is used in the correct way, it can be a blessing for you, right? And the same solitude can be turned into a curse as well, right? Most of the people, they complain me about the loneliness. I always say to them, when you're lonely, your thought process generate a certain energy within you, right? And that can be negative. Now, let's say you are in this negative energy environment and a negative energy thought process. You all know in science we learn about, according to science, it says that energy cannot be produced or destroyed. Now you have your energy within you, but it is negative, right? Now you can't destroy this negative energy, right? What we are trying in this whole life is to destroy this negative energy. Well, we can't do that. The only thing that we can do is to convert this negative energy, drive this negative energy to something positive, right? So how can we drive this loneliness, this energy to something positive? One of the biggest reasons why people feel lonely is because they lack an aim, a goal to their life. If they have a goal and aim that they should work on, if they have a system that they should work on, then they don't feel that much lonely because they have something to do. They have something to engage with it, right? So this can go either, people can have either material goals or spiritual goals, but everyone must have these spiritual goals within themselves, no matter what life they are coming from, right? Because finally, there will be a time in all of our lives that we come to this lonely place. One day we have to be by ourselves with no one else around us, right? At that time, if we don't have any quality, any spiritual quality that we have practiced within us, we'll start feeling lonely again and again. And it will start to build up this negative energy within us, okay? And sometimes we can be too late for that to make it correct. So the best thing is to learn how to convert this negative energy to something positive, right? To do that, you have to have a goal and an aim for yourself, to yourself. Always ask from yourself, what should I do in my life? Who should I become in my life? What should I build up? What qualities should I work on in my life? If you found, we will always find some qualities that we should work on, right? Some mistakes that we have, some weaknesses within us. If we can work on those weaknesses and make it correct, that time will help you to be more successful, more productive, right? More happy and a more peaceful person. But to do that, what do you need? You need time, right? You need time to be focused on yourself. And what gives you the best time to be focused on yourself is the time when you are all alone, right? And that is why I always say for people, have a time during the day only for yourself, a separate time. Probably people call it me time. Okay, that's a good thing. Having a me time for yourself during the day is essential. Okay, so I would say as a practical thing, apply it to your life. That is to have a separate, at least 15 minutes. It's okay. No matter how much you spend the time, but if it is for yourself, that is helpful, right? At least spend a 15 minutes of time, right? Sitting down, being by yourself, all alone, right? Not with your mobile phones, not with your Netflix account, not with your movies or anything. Just be by yourself, right? And then learn how to be with your own thoughts, right? Then only we can be more focused to ourselves, right? So I hope you got some idea about how to convert this loneliness into the solitude. So apply this little practice to your life and enjoy the solitude in your life. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Welcome and welcome back to another video. We all know that it is very easy for all of us to judge someone by their character, by how they speak, by how they behave, by how they deal with problems. It is very easy to make these assumptions. But most of the times, these judgments that we make are not always the correct, right? Sometimes we think about a person as, in a way, this person is good, either good or bad. But later we realize that they are not as good as they are. They are not they are not as bad as they look, right? So the judgments that we make are not always correct. But to deal with people, to be with people, to make relationship with people, we need to understand people. Somehow we need to have a good idea about who the person is. But it takes a very long time to understand. So today from this video, I'm going to share some valuable facts from the Buddha that was preached by the Buddha about how to make judgments, how to predict a person, how to understand the character of a person. The Buddha explained this in a sutra in Anguttara Nikaya. The Buddha says, by living together with a person, his virtue can be known, and this too only after a long time, not casually. By close attention, not without attention. By one who is wise, not by one who is stupid. Now what Buddha means by this is that if you need to understand someone's virtue, someone's life moralities, someone's ethical behaviors, you need to take a good time to understand it. You can't just look at a person and judge by their actions and how they behave, right? The Buddha says this to be known, the virtue can only be known, this too only after a long time, not casually. So what Buddha invites all of us to do is to take a good time. You deal with the person by being with that person, by living together with that person. You will gain some idea about their virtue, right? How trustful they are, how they behave. But this too take a long time. So what Buddha tells from this is to not to be panicked, to understand or to make judgments about a person. And then the Buddha says, pay close attention, not without attention, right? If you didn't pay attention to their virtues, you may not be able to understand that person. And also the Buddha says, a person can be known, their virtues can be known only by who is wise, not by one who is stupid, right? So you need to be very wise when you understand about someone's character. And also the Buddha says, by having dealings with a person, his integrity can be known. And this too only after a long time, not casually, by close attention, not without attention, by one who is wise, not by one who is stupid. So the Buddha says their integrity, right, their character, how faithful they are, or how loyal they are, right, how trustful they are. Only you can understand about this after a very long time. And then the Buddha says about a special thing. The Buddha says, in misfortune, a person's fortitude, a person's patience can be known. And this too only after a long time, right? How to judge someone's patience? When they experience misfortune, when they are going through adversities, when they are going through difficult times in their life, only we can understand how patient they are, how much they have practiced this patience, how much courage and how much grit that they have in their life, right? But this also to what? You need to take a good time. It's not easy for all of us to understand about a person with a short period of time, right? You may think, okay, I understood the person, but it is not, right? Human minds are so much complicated and so much complex when it comes to understanding, right? It's not easy to understand. That is why the Buddha said, the difference between animals, like the other animals and humans, is that the other animals, they express their mistakes, they express their weaknesses. But humans, it is very difficult. The Buddha himself says that it is very difficult to deal with humans. It is very difficult to understand a human. Why? Because a human will always cover their weaknesses. They hide their weaknesses. So it is not easy to understand. So what Buddha means by all this sutra is that you can't judge a person by just casually. You have to take a good time. You have to be patient. You have to have a good mind of understanding to take a good idea about that person is, right? And also then the Buddha says how to judge a person's wisdom, how wise they are. The Buddha says, by conversation, a person's wisdom can be known. And this too, only after a long time, not casually. And by close attention, not without attention. By one who is wise and not by one who is stupid, right? So to understand someone's wisdom, how to understand how wise they are, you have to have a good conversation, deep conversations about life. And also, you have to take a good time to understand their wisdom, okay? Because sometimes the people who appear to be wise, people who appear to be good are not always as good as they look, right? So I hope you got some idea about how to judge and how to understand a person's character. So I would like to end this video with a wonderful quote by Mrs. Dow Santamata. In her quote, she says, "It is easy to judge. It is more difficult to understand. Understanding requires compassion, patience, and a willingness to believe that good hearts sometimes choose poor methods. Through judging, we separate. Through understanding, we grow." So, I would like to invite all of you to not to be too quick to judge someone and do not judge a book by its cover. So, take a good time to understand about people. Take care. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Welcome and welcome back to another video. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever lied to someone? Well, I know what you're thinking about. You will say to me, well, what are you talking about? We all have lied, right? That is the nature of all of us. Yes, it is the common human nature for all of us to lie, right? I got this question from one of the parents who is visiting our monastery. She asked from me, like, my daughter has this serious bad habit that she always lies to me, right? No matter what she does, she never tells the truth. What's the reason for this and how can I stop this? Then I asked from her, have you ever punished your child or scolded or yelled at your child just because she did a bad thing, she did a wrong thing, and she told the truth? She told you what she did. Have you ever done that? And she said, yes, I have done it many times, that I have scolded and I have punished my child just because she told the truth, right? And I told her, this is the biggest reason why children lie. And this is the biggest reason that people lie most of the time. People lie because they're afraid of the punishments, right? And also, people lie because they are being punished in the past, even though they told the truth, right? So that is why I always advise for parents and people, no matter people, who are the people who you're living with, They will do mistakes, they will do wrong things. That is the human nature, right? But make them understand, no matter what bad thing or what wrong thing you did, tell the truth. If you tell the truth, there will be no punishment, there will be no anger in it. If you tell the truth, there will be love, affection, guidance, and understanding. That is what we need to practice, right? People lie because they're afraid of being punished and being afraid of that hurt and pain. And also, one of the biggest reasons that people lie is because they're afraid of losing things. Okay. So, if we can make an environment for people around us, for our loved ones, that there is this understanding, there is this love and care and guidance, so that they will always tell the truth to you, right? So I want to introduce you to this wonderful practice that we have in monks community, right? Because as monks, right, when we become monks, we get 227 precepts to practice, right? Sometimes these precepts are broken by ourselves, right? Most of the time it is because of lack of mindfulness or lack of awareness, right? Mistakes can happen. If we broke some precept, there is this practice called apati deshana. Apati deshana means if we did a wrong thing, or if we break a precept, what we have to do is we have to go to one of our brother monks and open up it, right? That means tell the mistake that we have done and tell them that I know and I see this mistake as a mistake, and hereafter I am trying my best to be disciplined, right? And the response from the other party is the most wonderful thing, right? The response always will be that I know and I see this mistake in you as a mistake. I understand that you have done a mistake. So from hereafter, you will be forgiven and you will be guided and you will get the help from the monks community to be disciplined, right? And that is what we all need to have in all of our families and people who we are dealing with, right? We need to have that understanding and guidance and love and care. And then people will always be truthful, right? Because people don't understand what are the bad effects and adverse effects of this lying. Most of the time people say, okay, I can say white lies, right? I can say white lies. It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make any bad thing or it doesn't hurt me. Well, white lies do hurt you, right? Although you said it just because it is a small thing and doesn't hurt anyone, that is the start of a mistake. When you get comfortable with white lies, right? Little by little, you will get comfortable with big lies. So that is why we should not, that is why the Buddha said, when the Buddha defines that you should stay away from lying, when the Buddha said you should stay away from lying, Buddha never referred to any kind of colors of lie or white lie or red lie or any kind of lie. Buddha said, be truthful, stay away from lying, right? So how can we understand this lying? The lying should be understood that the words that we speak with the intention of fooling someone, right? Putting him in a difficult situation and fooling someone, right? So these kind of words, we should not be spoken and we should be always truthful, right? Being truthful in the beginning, it will a little bit hurt a little bit. It will be difficult a little bit. But being truthful has many, many benefits, right? So that is why we need to understand that lying is not good in any way, right? No matter it is a white lie or a red lie or any kind of lie, lie is harmful for all of us, right? If we can try to be truthful, if we can live our life in a truthful way, it will give you a huge satisfaction about your life. When you think about your life, how truthful you have lived, then it will give you a good sense of like happiness into your life. Okay, so if you can create an environment of understanding, love and care and guidance, so then the people around you will not lie to you. Okay, so tell to your children, no matter what you do, tell the truth. If you tell the truth, there will be no punishment, there will be no scolding, and only there will be love, care, and guidance. So keep this little advice in your mind and be happy. Namo Buddhaya. We all know how difficult it feels when, after doing something or saying something, the same mind that forced us to do that action, the same mind that pushed us to do that action, turns back at us and say, why did you do that? Why did you say that? You shouldn't have done that. We spend a lot of time regretting about our past actions, the things that we have done or said in the past. It turns out 75% of people spend a significant amount of their lifetime regretting about either about past or being fear about the future, right? So if you think that you're the only person who is regretting about the past actions, you are not. We all are. We all are in the same boat, right? So the Buddha realized that regretting over the past actions is one of the biggest issues when it comes to the peace of the human mind. So that is why the Buddha gives a straightforward answer for this question, how to stay away from regrets in life. The Buddha says, first, be mindful about your actions. And by doing something, if the result leads to suffering of yourself or suffering to others, stay away from doing such actions. That is the first thing to do, right? But how to put it into action? How to not to collect the things or to do things that brings regret to our life? So the Buddha gave us an amazing advice to practice this, amazing practice. Buddha describes this to his former son, Rahula. Before becoming the Buddha, he was a prince and he had a son. His name was Rahula. Later, he became a monk, right? And he gave this amazing advice to Venerable Rahula. The Buddha asked from Venerable Rahula, Rahula, what do you think? What is the purpose of a mirror? Then Venerable Rahula says, the purpose of a mirror is to see the reflection, to check the reflection, sir. Then the Buddha says, in the same way, Rahula, you have to understand that before doing something or before saying something, you have to thoroughly reflect on that action. You have to ask from yourself that this action that I'm wishing to do, will it bring suffering to my life? Will it bring suffering to others' life? Am I doing this action with an unwholesome mind? If the answer is yes, then the Buddha says, by all means, you have to stay away from such actions. Because the things that we do with an unwholesome mind, the Buddha says that the end result is the suffering. So the Buddha explains this in the first verse in the Dhammapada. The Buddha says, if someone did something with an unwholesome mind, suffering follows that person like a cart wheel follows an ox, right? So what Buddha teaches us is that before doing something or before saying something, just wisely reflect on it, right? Thoroughly reflect on it. What will be the consequence of this action? Is it going to hurt myself? Is it going to hurt others? Right? And then the Buddha says, when you reflect on your actions, if you found out that the actions that you are wishing to do will bring happiness to yourself, the actions that you are going to do will bring the happiness to other people, and if you are doing this action with an wholesome mind, by all means, do that, because that brings the peace and happiness to your life. So that is where the practice of mindfulness comes into play, right? Because in mindfulness, we don't do things mindfully. What we do is we become mindful about what we do, right? We understand why we are doing what we are doing, right? Most of the time, the reason why we collect regretful actions to our life is because we don't know why we are doing what we are doing, right? So the first step is to understand what is the purpose of this action? What is the intention behind my actions? When you become mindful about the consequence of such actions, then you can make a good choice to stay away from the things that brings the regret to our life, right? So that is the first thing to do. The first thing is to be mindful and to thoroughly reflect on our actions and to stay away from the things that brings the regret to our life. That is the first step. And then the Buddha realized that as an average person, you can't reflect on each and every action that you do, right? That mindfulness is not that developed enough for each and every person. So as an average person, we all will make mistakes. We will all do wrong things. Then the Buddha gave an amazing solution for this problem, for this regret. The Buddha says, if you have done something that is regretful, do not hide it. That is what Buddha says. The Buddha says, if you have done something, if you are regretting about a past action, if you are regretting about something that you have done in the past or said in the past, first thing you have to do is you should not hide it. Find a person who can understand you. The Buddha says that reveal it to your spiritual teacher, right? Find a person who can understand you, or reveal it to your spiritual companions, right? Find a community of people who can understand you, who does not judge you, who can give a good guidance to you, and reveal it to them, right? Do not hide it. Do not conceal it. Open it up in front of wise people. Now, there are two amazing things that happens when you reveal yourself or when you confess yourself in front of wise people. What are the two things? The first thing is that it free up your mind, right? It releases your stress and the tension and that negative energy that is building up in your mind, right? And that will lead to not to repeat this same action again and again. The problem with concealing and hiding a past mistake is that the more we hide it, the more there will be a probability for it to repeat. If you reveal it, then it frees up it releases your heart, right? And also it releases that negative energy that is building up within you. That is the first thing that happens to you. The second thing is that you will get a wonderful guidance, good guidance to overcome that action, right? You will get the help from the community around you, right? So the first thing is to not to do something that is regretful. That is the first thing to do. To do that, we need to build up the mindfulness, right? And to reflect on our actions before doing them. And the second thing is that if there are things that we are regretting about the past, we have to reveal it. You have to talk about it and let it out from your heart. So these are the two things that we have to do when it comes to regret. So the Buddha showed us that understanding the mistake as a mistake and accepting it and disciplining yourself to not to repeat it again will help you to free up your mind and bring peace and happiness to all of our minds. So that is why we all need, and it is very important for all of us to practice the mindfulness, practice the reflection on our own actions, and also to be brave enough to confess the mistakes that we have done in the past. So I hope you got some idea about this mindfulness and confession. So hope to see you in another video. See you in the next week. Namo Buddhaya.